So here's some bonus material, some edited Q&A from the audience with Kimmi Cantrell of Careers in Nonprofit.
I have been looking for nonprofit work for quite a while, and I'm being a little bit stubborn because this is really, really what I want to do. And I'm the one who is transitioning from a background in education. Actually, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and we have a similar background, like master's degree background and everything. So I have quite a lot of history of bridge jobs, and I'm afraid that that makes it look like I am easily dissatisfied and am a job hopper. And that's absolutely not true. I'm looking for long term. I need something. Lynn knows this that is very, very satisfying, and for me, in terms of making the world a better place and just being purposeful work. So how do I how can I show that? Or this hopefully applies to a lot of people. How can we show that we're not job hoppers, but we're just, you have to make money while you're waiting for the right job that you want to stay in, so you're not going to be leaving?
Yep, that's a great question. And again, I would just revert it back to networking with people that can advocate for that, or that you can tell that story to.
Okay.
Because when you're sending in your resume to just a general application from Indeed or wherever you're looking, all people see is your work experience. They're not seeing who you are. They're not seeing what you have to offer. They're not seeing your heart. They're not seeing anything else except the tenure on your resume. And for better or for worse, and so I think the more that you can get away from relying on just resume applications, and instead it's on networking or relationships or referrals, that's really going to be where I think you find an opportunity. But also don't close yourself off to things that may not seem like what it is you wanted. And what I mean by that is, for myself, I would have never imagined I'd be doing what I do right now. And when I applied for the job with CNP, I was determined that I wanted the job that I applied for. But they allowed me to see something greater than my wildest dreams that I didn't even know I wanted. And so what I say with that is, if you're unsure about an application, just put it in. If you're unsure about a network connection to make, just make it. Because the worst that can happen is it goes nowhere. But the best that can happen is it takes you exactly where you want to go.
Yeah, otherwise, you're saying no for them by not doing it.
I see. Yeah. And I don't feel like I'm real boxed in what I want. All I really want is something that feels purposeful. I just want to know that by the end of the day, I feel great about what I've contributed.
Yep. And so I think there's a lot of people who that's what they want too. They want someone like you to come do that for their organization. You have to find those people, and you're probably not going to find them by just sending in a blind resume. Instead you're going to find it by connecting with them over a virtual coffee, or meeting them at your local library. I don't know. You'd be amazed when I actually met the amount of people that I meet back in the day from my Uber rides, my Uber drivers who, I just start talking about whatever, just getting to know who they are. It turns out they're a person who's looking for a job, and I'm able to help them. Then I give my business card, and then it turns into something that's not just a ride home anymore. And so I think if we open ourselves to, any person that walks our way, I think really, and verbalizing like, yeah, that's something I'm interested in. Can we talk more about that? Or yeah, can you connect me with that person? I think that really goes a long way.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Question I have is that, because I'm contemplating moving into the nonprofit world, and I've been a board member for this nonprofit for 3 years. They're evolving into a kind of a bigger nonprofit. It's an acquisition. I'm on the development committee for another nonprofit, and when the CEO of this nonprofit invited me, she said, I can see you going into development. I can see you going to programming. And I'm just trying to figure out like how can I kind of narrow down like what type of job I should be looking at.
Yeah, good question. one of the best tips of advice I've ever received is that if you don't really know what it is you're looking for, go look at job boards and read every job application and let them tell you. And so look at, if you're saying like development programs, those are two very different, sometimes simultaneous, similar positions, but reading some job descriptions and saying, would I be happy with that? Would I enjoy that? Would that excite me? And then even taking like the bullet points of, I would like to do that, wouldn't really like to do that one, and just kind of seeing what they tell you and letting those kind of create what it is that you're looking to do. But at the end of the day, only you can decide that. I can't tell you that. Nobody can determine what's going to be good for you and what you're going to like. And so that was one of the best tips of advice I had ever received, because we find a lot of people who are like, I'm just not sure, like I want it to kind of come in front of me. And sometimes after looking at a few job descriptions, you kind of figure out what it is that you want to do. And then when you see the perfect one, it's very clear. And so even if you're not interested in that particular position, I would say look at as many job descriptions as you can of things that are out right now to see what could build into something that you would want to do long term.
And I could imagine, I mean, there's Chronicle of Philanthropy, Chronicle of Higher Education are two places where you can see a lot of those, because they have a lot of national jobs out there and give you that. For people who aren't in the nonprofit sector, even people who are, are your clients looking for people who do volunteering generally? Does that help? Like Jim there's talking about being a volunteer on a board.
Definitely. And I would say too, one thing that people, I think really hurts people is that they feel like because they didn't get paid, they can't put it on their resume. And that's just not true. And so I would encourage people, if you have volunteered or if you do volunteer, put that on your resume. Let people see that. For myself, I volunteer at a competitive cheer gym called Hot Topic All Stars. And I previously was a cheer and tumble coach. And now I actually do development and sponsorships for the gym because it's a nonprofit gym. And I've never gotten paid ever for my service with them, but I always put that on my resume because not that I'm looking for a job right now, but I like people to know that I do that because I think it continues to add to my character. And, I consider myself a cheerleader, and I like to cheer people on. And so when they see that on my resume and in my experience on my LinkedIn profile, I think it just helps to kind of continue to build what it is you're passionate about and what you bring to the team. So if you've done, if you're on a board, that's amazing leadership experience. And anybody who works in a nonprofit would be grateful, to have somebody who has that experience. So definitely, if you, volunteer for your child's PTA, like if you are doing leadership work at your, community group or church, like anytime that you are, developing things for the greater good, that should be on your resume. And if you need help figuring out how to put that on your resume, like I said, there's some people out there that can help you do that. But you position it the same way that you would a job, or even just create a section of like volunteer and leadership activities. But I definitely think that just because you don't get paid for it does not mean it should not exist on your resume.
What percentage of nonprofits use recruitment companies? Am I doing a disservice just looking for a job with LinkedIn and Idealist?
Great question. I don't know that I have the percent, I don't know that I can give a percentage because there's so many nonprofit organizations out there. But
1.5 million, I think, is the last count.
A lot. And so I would say that, are you doing yourself a disservice? I don't like to use that word, but my straight answer is expand the pie as much as possible. So keep doing LinkedIn, keep doing Idealist, look at Indeed, look at Chronicle of Philanthropy, reach out to 5 different staffing firms in your area. Don't limit yourself to just 1 or 2 things when you have dozens. Why not? What do you have to lose? And so I personally do think that obviously working with recruiters and staffing firms is a beneficial use of your time. Again, I'm biased, but sometimes people see better for you than you can even see for yourself. And I'll use myself as that example. Like, I thought that the job that I was applying to was going to be great for me. And looking back on it now, I'm so glad that I didn't take that job, or that I didn't get that job, because what I get to do now is so much more fulfilling for me. It's more dynamic. It, hits all the points of my skill set I didn't even know I had. But my recruiter, after interviewing with me, was like, have you ever considered something like this? Because I think you'd be a really good fit. And so just having somebody else to bounce those ideas off, I think, is really, really helpful.
Kind of a multi-part question. I mean, first of all, I've spent my career, despite other activities on the side that I've done in volunteering, I've always worked in for-profit. And looking at this pivot, I mean, you answered some of the questions, but one of the first questions, I don't even really know where to start or how to go about making the pivot from for-profit to nonprofit. That's number one. And then sub points of that would be, of course, some of the tools that we use once you're looking for a job is a resume. It's also using LinkedIn. And I understand that on a resume, I can rewrite a resume for a job. So I'd be looking for any recommendations on who's more adept at writing or helping, or can give some advice on doing writing a resume for nonprofit, because I think it's a very different world, the terms and the experience. And the other thing is with LinkedIn, that's not as, you can't keep on changing LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn is kind of it's dynamic, but also static on it in a sense. So the question is, if I'm orientated to to the for-profit in my LinkedIn, I'm not closing that door necessarily while I'm looking at this other path, which is the nonprofit. So how do I deal with the issue of what do I do with my LinkedIn? How do I change it or not change it? So that someone that would look at my LinkedIn in the nonprofit world wouldn't say, what is this guy looking at nonprofit when everything is for-profit? So anyway, so those are some of the things I'm concerned about, which I didn't know if they were addressed and I missed it. But thank you for everything, and I'll let you talk.
Of course. Well, all good things there. And first, you said you don't know where to start, but you already started. So here we go. So I would say with that, recognizing that you want to make that change is the first place to start. And so again, what you need to determine is what it is that you want to do and why. Because again, I can't tell you that. And I can give you advice all day long, but at the end of the day, like, you have to be clear on what it is you want next. And if you aren't clear, find that clarity. And the only way to do that is reflecting, it's sitting down saying, what am I passionate about? What do I like? What am I good at? What do I want to do less of? And just getting clear on what it is that you want to do. So once you have that clarity, allowing yourself to translate that into your resume. You mentioned LinkedIn, you can't really edit that a lot, but I would disagree. And perhaps Lynn has, a different opinion on LinkedIn, but I think
Yes, I do.
I'll talk on that more in a moment, but I think people edit LinkedIn pretty regularly. And I think that you should, because you're an ever evolving person. You can't obviously lie, you shouldn't lie on things like LinkedIn in your resume. But what I kind of think I hear you saying is perhaps tweaking it to making it pivot a little bit better for you. And, sometimes it is harder to do on a, larger stage like LinkedIn. But I really think what you need to do first is just get clear on what you want to do, and then continue to find people that can help you get there. And so if that is a resume service that helps you edit resumes, I know a former colleague of mine, her name is Stephanie Peterson. She edits resumes at a very affordable cost. I'm not trying to, plug her in right here, but if you're looking for a recommendation from me, that's one person who I would recommend, just because she's been doing nonprofit staffing as long as I have, and she does edit resumes as well with that in mind.
With your resume and with your LinkedIn profile, it's really all about keywords. A lot of times you have documents that are being looked at by bots before they're being looked at by humans. So Kimmi says that she doesn't have an applicant tracking system as a recruiter. It goes directly to her, and you've got human eyes on a resume. But LinkedIn is a database, and if people are using Boolean searches to find people with different skill sets, you've got to have those keywords on your LinkedIn profile.